does Bob think of the hypothesis that Roger Parvis held at one time, according to which James and the Pillars were actually followers of John the Baptist, not of Jesus, and that James the Just was a successor to the ministry of John the Baptist?
Well, I thought of some of this before, and it's all viable, and this particular scholar is really terrific. I've read some of his stuff about the Ignatian epistles, Roger Parvis. He's really great. In fact, I'm trying to get his permission to publish one of his books that I think is only online, or to devote an issue of the Journal of Higher Criticism to it. I'm sure I'm not the only one that would like a print version of it. Well, I need to see why he thinks that the three pillars were John the Baptist followers. It certainly seems reasonable, but I'm sure he has something in mind that doesn't occur to me offhand. So I'd be real interested to hear. I mean, knowing this guy, he's got some kind of good reason, and I'd be interested to know. James the Just, I've thought of this in connection with the great Robert Eisenman, who figured James was the teacher of righteousness at Qumran, and that the Dead Sea Scrolls sect was the early Jewish Christian church. And this isn't Eisenman's original idea, though he's amazingly original and insightful. But there was this guy, I cannot think of the name, who wrote in a whole series of articles in a journal of Judaism, Joseph Teichner, I think, and he already argued some decades earlier that the Ebionites and the Essenes of Qumran were the same people. You can't prove it, but it makes a whole lot of sense of a lot of things, including the astonishing similarities between the Dead Sea Scrolls and certain things in the New Testament. Well, Barbara Thiering argues that the teacher of righteousness was John the Baptist. And of course, both of these guys are supposedly martyred by priestly thugs, and so the hat can fit on either head, really. And both are supposed to be very conservative, legalistic, pious Jews and sectarians. So both are good arguments. And that leads me to think, I know this is a kind of a harmonization, but that perhaps both of them were the teacher of righteousness. There's no real reason to deny that it was a position that, I mean, we usually hear that the teacher of righteousness was kind of the second founder of the group, the guy that showed him the Pesher approach to the Old Testament and how it really predicted them and him. And that after he was killed, they were sheep without a shepherd, but kept going. But suppose that was a kind of a papal role and that they replaced him periodically, I wouldn't be surprised. So it could well be that it was John the Baptist at first and James the Just next. Of course, there's a similar theory that James was the Caliph for Jesus, that he ran the Jerusalem church, or the Qumran church, and that his brother Simeon Bar Cleophas succeeded him. And very much like Islam, the companions of Muhammad, and then the pillars, the relatives of Muhammad, same term even. So that's quite possible. It's speculative. There's no way to know, but if Roger thinks so, he's never without good reasons I hadn't thought of, so I'd love to know more about it.
I'm not sure if he's detracted from that view. This may be an earlier view of his, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I gather that's implied there, but I'd like to know about it anyway, as well as whatever he's replaced it with.
It's funny that you say that, because even my friend Jasper Skies told me, he's like, he thinks that Roger probably had it right the first time. So I don't know what he's read exactly on this particular issue, but it makes me wonder. And I like this idea. I wonder, just throwing this out there, does this whole idea of James the Just, the teacher of righteousness, and possibly the teacher of righteousness being John the Baptist, is there any significance in the passages when we talk about mythicism and argumentation between historicism and mythicism on James, the brother of the Lord? When we talk about this whole incorporating previous movements, and it kind of vacuums them up into this movement, giving more validity to a movement, is there a perception we can look at James, the brother of Jesus, in a way, or brother of the Lord, let me scratch that, James, the brother of the Lord, is there a way where there's a perception utilizing that vacuuming in a movement by utilizing that in that passage? Is there a point in why he separates James here?
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that the assimilation of James as the brother of Jesus, even if they meant a flesh and blood sibling, is exactly analogous to making John the Baptist the cousin of Jesus. It's a way of saying, well, okay, it's a succession, but Jesus had no children, and so it would go laterally. And I think that I think it's pretty clear that's what happened with John the Baptist, and it seems to me that that's probably what happened with James the Just, insofar as we think he is being named in Galatians as Jesus' flesh and blood brother.
If you buy it, right?
And that doesn't necessarily mean he started making false claims about this. It depends on when these references like Galatians were written. It may be that this was sometime in the past, and they made an artificial connection, just like they did when they were trying to say that the Israelites and the Ishmaelites were cousins, and that they would do that, as they did in the ancient Near East, to forge an alliance or a trading partnership or whatever. They'd say, well, you and I are really blood brothers. Kind of like in First Maccabees, when the Hasmoneans managed to get the Spartans on their side against the Seleucids. They made it legitimate by saying, way back there, the Spartans and the Jews were really related. We've gone our separate ways since, but it's really all in the family. Well, there's no chance of that. But that's the way they made alliances. So I think ecclesiastically, this would be the same thing.
This is fascinating because it makes me wonder, this, like you said, the blood and the flesh type situation. One who's a mythicist might automatically go, oh, interpolation, right? Okay, so
there's good reason to believe that too.
Right. I'm not knocking it. That's why I'm like, okay, so here's a couple different ways of looking at it, and I think this is important in this vein of James the Just. If this is blood related, or they're trying to make it blood related, I think that's significant, because what are the odds of him actually being a cousin of John the Baptist? Big question mark, right? Like, I doubt it. What are the odds of him actually being a brother of James the Just? Now you have to kind of weigh in these things and consider this evidence. Is this a later, let me try and have validity, apostolic type validity out of a Judaic type system? Let me give it Jewish roots as best I can, because this thing takes an elbow away from Judaism in a way. I don't know. But I like the way that you're thinking here. I never thought of these things this way.
Yeah, nobody ever says this stuff because they're still captive to a basically orthodox paradigm, and the stuff automatically seems fanciful and silly. And I will agree, it's speculative, but I don't think dogmatism is appropriate either on my side or the traditional side. It's just too messy for that, the state of the evidence. And the same is true with Islamic tradition, with Buddhist tradition, the Moses stories. They're all the same kind of shaky ground.